We ring once for those who came before us and made this day possible. We ring once for those gathered here in community today. We ring once for those yet to come, that they may inherit a world with greater freedom, dignity, and joy.
Good morning. Welcome to Unitarian Coastal Fellowship. This is a place where many paths meet, where we honor the rich, beautiful tapestry of spiritual traditions, and where all are welcome to responsibly explore their own connection to the sacred. I am Reverend Leslie Runnels, and I use she, her pronouns. Joined today with Maria Lundgren as worship associate. We have on piano Megan Smith. Our song leader returning from the north today is Karen Baggett, and Harriet Altman and Dan Phillips making sure all that magical AV stuff happens today. If you are visiting us for the first or second time today, would you raise your hand that we may welcome you? It's just the old gang? All right. Let's find out who's, is anybody on Zoom? We got people on Zoom? All right, we're going to find out who's joining us.
On Zoom, we have John Brobst, Brian Yance, and Gary Willis.
Beautiful. Let's wave to our friends at home or wherever they are. We're glad you're joining us. The only announcement that I have today is that the Green Sanctuary, where's Penny? Oh, Penny's still out there. Does anybody know when the Green Sanctuary thing is happening?
Well, we're going to be right over Sally B. White.
Sally B. White after worship service today, right? Yep. So anybody interested in learning about Green Sanctuary and how that program is getting kicked back off will be joining in the Sally B. White Center after worship today. All right, and now we are going to center ourselves, settle into your seats, prepare your heart and your open mind and your willing hands for worship, and we'll let Megan join us.
Spirit of life, love, and liberation, we gather in this quiet space to breathe, to pause, and to remember. We call upon the creative spark that dances in the quiet corners of our hearts and in the energy of our hands. Remind us that the stroke of a loaded brush, the spinning of clay, the scrawled snippets of a poem, and the singing of an unformed note are holy acts of listening. Release our thoughts of perfection. Free us from the tyranny of the finished product. Teach us to worship when everything is messy, when the light is changing, and when we feel the wisdom that allows us to trust in our own authentic souls. And now let us speak these words as one. Come, let us worship together. Soleil, would you like to light the chalice? Thank you. Today we gather with intention and creativity, releasing what we must, shaping what we will, in a space made possible by generations of community care and the courage of connection. We also light our peace candle to remind ourselves that peace is a process that requires work, that peace is not merely an absence of conflict, but the presence of justice.
We are going to learn just a little bit about how to sign one of our beloved hymns in American Sign Language. Many churches have been doing this over the years and then quit doing it because people who can't hear were saying things like, what about the rest of the service? I'm deaf during the whole thing, right? So a lot of us put it aside, but I was at and like anything that we do to increase justice, we find out it's not always perfect, and so we come back to the drawing board and we try again, right? So at the UU Music Ministries conference that I just got back from, Melanie DeMore, who is just absolutely amazing, taught us why we want to sing in other languages or sing other cultures' songs with permission. And she said, so that we know the world is larger than just our own English language or just our own spoken language. So I'm going to teach you a few parts of the song, and we'll learn more throughout the month. So we're going to sing this song throughout the month, and we're going to learn how to do the sign language together. Okay, so the first that I'm going to teach you is Spirit of Life, Come Unto Me. Have y'all ever done this before? Is the church used? Okay. So you start with this here, kind of at your heart, and Spirit of Life. So life is with L's, life. So, Spirit of Life, come unto me. Okay, that's easy enough. Spirit of Life, come unto me. Okay, and then we're going to learn the middle parts of the song next week. So now we're going to go to Roots, Hold Me Close. So Roots, Hold Me Close, you make a little C with your hand, and your tree trunk goes in there. So Roots, hold me, and then close is you bring this hand away and you bring this hand close to it, okay? So roots, hold me close. Spirit of life, come unto me, come to me, okay? I think y'all got it. All right, so please rise in body or spirit as you feel called to. For our opening hymn, Spirit of Life, we're going to sing it in English first with our new ASL signs, and then we're going to sing it in Spanish, also with our ASL signs, because that is one handy thing about sign language, which is different in other countries, right? But it is a way for us to continue to bodily understand it. All right, song leader, take over.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion.
Our commitment to building beautiful, beloved community means that we are called to be glad with those who rejoice and to weep with those who mourn. We have set aside this time in our gathering to share with one another our joys and sorrows that are now shaping our lives. Should you wish to share a personal joy or sorrow about a person or persons in your life, there's a piece of paper you can fill out over there and put it in the basket, and I will read it aloud as part of the ritual. This is a sacred ritual that we do in meditative silence, being present to ourselves and to each other, and listening to what the silence has to say. Come forward along this line or a line that's going to form there. Collect a stone or a shell from the basket, place it in the water, and the water becomes sacred, holy water for this community as we hold together all that we need to be held together. We welcome you to the ritual. asking for prayers for the victims of Iran and Bolivia this morning. We send them, their families, and their loved ones our prayers. Barb and Dan Phillips want to send big thanks to Adam Greco for coming to the church on Saturday to help us solve our Zoom problems. He climbed a tall ladder to check out the camera and then kept honing in on the problem and Googling solutions and pushing buttons until he found the way forward for us. So that is how, yes. That is how our friends on Zoom at home are able to see us today. Thank you all. And also Dan and Barb for the persistent work y'all have done to make sure it happens. Soleil says, hi. Maria Lundgren is gratitude for my son Ben's 36th birthday today, Mama. And Pat Curley is just returning from the National Scout Jamboree, spent 2 weeks with 15,000 young people who focused on fellowship and service to others. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful work. This community witnesses your joys, your sorrows, even the ones not spoken aloud or the ones that are slowly forming in your heart. May you know love, may you know peace, and may you be safe. All right, it is traveling chalice time, and the chalice has already come back to us. Ash, where's the Marsh? Are you hiding in the quiet room still? Yeah, she is. She's in the quiet room without the children. I thought she'd be out here. But Christy brought back the traveling chalice. The family had it for the week. And the family is Christy, Ashley, Hawthorne, and Evan. And they aren't here today because Ashley didn't get to sleep last night at the hospital. So they are home in bed, sleeping all quietly. But we have brought the chalice, traveling chalice back. So it is ready to go home with a new family. If somebody's ready to bring it home, who's going to come back next week? Anybody interested? All right, so it doesn't have to be a family with young people. Now the older people get a chance to bring it home. Who's ready? And we're not going to do ages with this. Who's ready? All right, Penny, beautiful. Yeah, I did notice that some things have been added to it, which is great. There's now tape in there so that you can write something and tape it in, and also some stickers, because I forgot stickers. Everybody needs stickers. So we'll see you back next week with the traveling chalice. And now it is time for all ages, and I have a book. So our young and young at heart seem to be centered over there at the table. So I'm going to come by y'all and tell y'all the story of Hilma af Klint. So she's an artist she was born in the 1800s, so this is a long time ago. You can see her up there on the left. And she was an artist, and she was painting typical artist things like landscapes and portraits and botanical illustrations, and she was kind of making it that way as an artist. But she and 4 other women would get together in the studio, and they decided to start listening to what the spirits might have to say about art and where art should go. And so they would sit there on comfy little couches, and they had tea and cookies, and they would kind of meditate. They would do what's called a seance, where they're, lighting candles and inviting in the spirits to speak to them. Is that a question? Yeah, Like they did in that one movie? Yeah, there was probably a movie about there was a lot of movies about seances. And the thing about seances is back in the early 1900s when she was doing this, it was pretty common. You would have a party and you would invite a medium to come to your party,
And it was kind of more common than it is now. Now it's kind of looked on as kind of being like a little bit woo-woo or a little bit spooky. But so her art, which started out, as like landscapes and stuff, she started hearing how to paint the mysteries and histories of the universe. So here's some of her work. And people came and they looked at it and they were like, meh, don't like it. I like to see a landscape. What is all this? I don't understand, right? And so the mentors and stuff were like, no, stop talking to the spirits. They don't know what they're doing. Yeah, Gavin?
It reminds me of the two pictures out there when you walk in.
Out there?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to go look at them. Yeah. Nice. So she quit painting them, or she quit showing them because people didn't like them. And she went back to painting the landscapes and the botanicals and stuff. And she knew that people weren't ready for her art, so she rolled up all of those paintings and she put them in her attic. And in her will, she said, you can have these paintings. She willed them to her nephew. But there was a stipulation. Anybody know what the word stipulation means? Stipulations mean it's kind of like saying but. It's kind of like a demand that's put down. It's like you can have this, but kind of like maybe your parents might say you can have more screen time, but you have to clean your room, right? That's a stipulation. So the stipulation in her will said you can have these paintings, but you can't show them to the public until 20 years after I'm gone. So they held on to these paintings in the attic. And then finally, 20 years after, her artwork started coming out into the world. So there's also a part, that she knew how to wait. And that's pretty interesting, that she had this new type of painting that nobody had ever done before. That's beautiful. Can I show? Can I show it to everybody? Oh, she's shy. But she knew she had to hold on to her paintings, that the world wasn't ready. And sometimes we need to know how to do that too. Maybe you have a friend who's not ready for whatever it is you want to do, or as a parent might have to say, we're not ready for you to do that yet. So y'all are going to go off to class today, and the adults are going to continue to learn about Hilma af Klint and some of the amazing stuff that she did. So we're going to sing you off with the blessing song. And after the kids are gone, if any adults want to come up here and color, there's some new artwork that has been sent to us specifically to UCF for the coloring table. So.
It's a blessing you were born, and it matters what you do. What we know about God is a piece of the truth. Let the beauty you love be what you do, and you don't have to do it alone. It's a blessing I was born, and it matters what I do. What I know about God is a piece of the truth. Let the beauty I love be what I do, and I don't have to do it alone. It's a blessing we were born, and it matters what we do. What we know about God is a piece of the truth. Let the beauty we love be what we do, and we don't have to do it alone.
We invite you now into a moment of silence and meditation. We'll sit in breathing meditation together, starting with 3 deep breaths. Close your eyes if you'd like, and music will bring us out of the meditation. So breathing in deeply and exhaling slowly. Breathing in. And out. And in. We weren't ready, and she knew it. This is a phrase that has stayed with me ever since I first learned the story of the Swedish artist Hilma af Klint, who I learned about in an art workshop on abstract art led by Addie Hirschton, who I know many of you know and love. Near the end of Hilma's life, she left instructions in her will that her paintings should not be shown publicly until at least 20 years after her death. Not because she was embarrassed by them or that she doubted them, but because, as she believed, the world wasn't ready. Imagine having that kind of confidence. Maybe confidence isn't the right word. Maybe it was trust. Trust that the work mattered, even if no one understood it. Trust that truth sometimes has to wait for history to catch up. And perhaps the most remarkable part of the story is this: she was right. Hilma af Klint was born in Sweden in 1862. She was academically trained, an accomplished landscape painter and botanical illustrator. She understood perspective, composition, anatomy, and color theory. She knew how to paint in the accepted styles of the day, and her botanical and landscape paintings did well. And then she began listening, not simply to inspiration, but to mystery. Along with 4 other women artists, she formed a spiritual circle known as the Five. For nearly a decade, they met faithfully. They prayed and meditated. They read philosophy and studied theosophy. Theosophy is a spiritual and philosophical system that teaches that people can know God and the universe through inner insight, meditation, or mystical experience. The Five sat in a cozy corner of their studio and drank tea, and they held seances, and they would listen. And then they practiced writing and drawing what they heard. Hilma's influence from theosophy is important because a founding tenet was that deep, profound interactions with nature will unlock hidden truths about the universe. And it did for her. This had a profound effect on Hilma's interest in non-representational possibilities of painting, where she began to create a new form of art, abstract art. Today, the language of seances and mediums and spirits and guides may make some of us uncomfortable. Others may hear echoes of mystical traditions from many religions. Some may hear psychology, collective unconscious, intuition, divine inspiration. And at this time in the early 1900s, people were invited to parties at someone's house, and the star of the party was the medium they invited. Seances were more common then than they are now. As Unitarian Universalists, we don't have to agree on what happened in those rooms, whether it was hocus pocus or divine inspiration. What matters is that 5 women committed themselves to deep listening, to make room for something larger than themselves. They encountered along the way spiritual guides who told them their names and shared their wisdom with the 5. In 1904, so what is that, 122 years ago, during a seance, Hilma heard a voice telling her to make paintings on an astral plane in order to proclaim a new philosophy of life. So this was essentially a celestial commission from an entity named Amaliel, who told her to paint the immortal aspects of humanity. The guide was entrusting her with painting the spiritual evolution of humanity. the spiritual evolution of humanity? And Hilma said yes. But her friends were worried. They worried she was going too far, that she was flirting with madness, that the occult could consume her. The five spent years practicing carefully. Their journals described the fear of losing themselves, of crossing some invisible threshold and not returning. And the unknown is scary. They didn't simply believe every voice they heard. They tested it and reflected together. And they held one another accountable. And that strikes me as deeply familiar. Not because we hold seances in our congregations, in our UU congregations, though we could, but because healthy spiritual communities have always asked, how do we know what is true? How do we distinguish ego from wisdom? How do we know fear from guidance, fantasy from revelation? And we as UUs rarely answer those questions alone because we know we need each other to do this explorative work together, just like Hilma needed her five. Hilma began painting what she was guided to paint, not small paintings, massive ones, 10 feet tall paintings. She painted on the floor with diagrams and sweeping spirals, circles, letters, botanical forms, mathematical relationships, symbols that at once looked ancient and also futuristic. She later said she didn't fully understand what she was painting. I received it, she claimed, not I invented it. And that is a remarkable reversal of how we usually think about artists. Modern culture loves the myth of the genius, the brilliant individual, the lone creator, the mad scientist. Hilma offered something different. She understood herself as a participant in the process rather than the proprietor of the outcome. Someone through whom something passed. And the critics came, and the teachers came, and the mentors came, and the collectors came, and they looked, and they shrugged. Some dismissed the work. Some found it incomprehensible. Some simply ignored it. There wasn't a category for what she was doing. It didn't fit into the styles of the day. And they were underwhelmed. She was making abstract paintings years before abstraction was considered a legitimate art form. She was bringing together science and mysticism, mathematics and theology, language, geometry, and art. And no gallery wall could hold her displayed visions. And when people cannot categorize something, we often reject it. Her guide, Amaliel, revealed to her the drawings of a spiral temple, and Hilma painted works for that temple, a temple that had never been built. The spiral temple was a place where viewers would ascend through the paintings as a spiritual journey. She created art for a future architecture that did not yet exist. And how wonderful that when her works finally came to the U.S. to be displayed in the Guggenheim Museum in New York, in a spiral temple created years after her paintings. Her show didn't come until 2018. That is when the U.S. began to learn of her. Every congregation is building a temple it will never fully inhabit. Not the building, but a moral and spiritual world that we are building together. We teach children the values whose full flowering we may never witness. We work for justice whose victories may come after we're gone. We covenant with one another not because we'll build perfect, beloved community, but because we're helping build it. Hilma painted for a temple she would never see. We live for a world we may never see. And to me, that is faith in his rich UU metaphor. And of course, there's another layer to Hilma's story. She was a woman. The early 20th century art world wasn't simply skeptical of mysticism, it was skeptical of women. History has often minimized women's innovations while celebrating the same ideas once they were voiced by men. For decades, people have credited Kandinsky with inventing abstraction. But we have discovered through Hilma's art and her journals that she had been painting abstract works years before he even began his work. How many other names have been forgotten? How many discoveries have been hidden because of race and gender and class and colonialism? Or simply because the wrong person said them? There is another part of this story that moves me deeply and ties it to me to Unitarian Universalism, and that is Hilma did not work alone. She spent nearly 10 years in community with the five, thinking and listening and drawing and questioning and praying and trusting and sharing tea and making meaning together. The paintings may bear one signature, but the work belonged to many hearts and hands. I think our culture sometimes overestimates individual genius and underestimates faithful community. We like heroes, but revelation often grows in circles, around tables, in thoughtful gatherings groups, in choirs, in recovery and support group meetings, in justice teams, book clubs, and coffee conversations, even in committee meetings. The Spirit so often speaks in the plural. When Hilma died, she left behind more than 1,200 paintings and over 120 journals to describe the process. She rolled many of the enormous canvases and stored them away in the attic. She wasn't protecting her reputation, she was protecting the work. She refused to force understanding before its time. And I wonder how many of us need that wisdom. It's me, I do. Not every truth must be argued today. Not every seed blooms immediately. Some things require patience. Relationships require time and mistakes and healing. Transformation needs time. Some movements require generations. Some dreams, some truths wait quietly until history opens the door. For most of Western Christianity, revelation was understood as something that happened in the past. Scripture was complete, the prophets had spoken, and the canon was closed. Unitarian Universalism has always been a little more unruly than that. We believe revelation is ongoing. As Unitarian Universalists, we affirm that revelation is not sealed. We open up that book and we make it bigger. The truth continues unfolding through human experience, through scientific discovery, through art, through justice movements and relationships, and moments of profound spiritual encounter. The universe is still speaking to us, and we are still listening. Our task is not merely to defend the old answers, it is to cultivate the capacity to recognize new ones. Sometimes that means science surprises us, or art surprises us, or our children surprise us. And sometimes marginalized community reveal truths the powerful have overlooked. The prophets are frequently dismissed not because they are wrong. Hilma was not wrong. But because they are early, and she was early, and she knew it. Perhaps every generation receives truths that feel impossible. Perhaps every congregation does too. Perhaps there are people sitting among us carrying visions that don't yet have language, ideas that don't yet fit, dreams that feel too risky to say aloud. Abolish poverty. The role of a faith community is not merely to preserve tradition, it is to become the kind of people who can receive revelation when it arrives, to become people who are ready for new understandings of justice, of gender, of race, of disability, of God. Ready for new understandings of ourselves. At an old age, Hilma insightfully understood that her works would not be appreciated by the audience of her time, so she left all of her creations to her nephew, stipulating in her will that they should only be made public 20 years after her death. When she died in 1944 at almost 82 years old, none of her abstract works had ever been seen or shown to the public. Hilma af Klint trusted that someday people would see. She never lived to witness the museums, the Spiral Temple, the exhibitions, the books, the admiration. She planted trees whose shade we would never sit beneath. She would never sit beneath. And that may be one of the holiest acts any human being can do, to make something beautiful, to tell the truth, to trust the future. To trust the future. Feels a little hard to do right now when the present seems so dang hard. But we trust the future. So perhaps her story leaves us with one final question. Not, what masterpiece are we meant to create, but what truth is trying to emerge through us that the world may not yet be ready to hear? And then a second question, will we have the courage to nurture it anyway? May we become people who listen deeply. May we build communities that discern wisely, artists of justice, seekers and speakers of truth, builders of a future we may never fully see. And may those who come after us someday look back and say, they helped make us ready. Amen. And blessed be the artists. All right, staying seated as you are, we're going to join voices in hymn number 299, Make Channels for the Streams of Love. Bless you, dear one.
Make channels for the streams of love where they
Every month, we share the plate with a community organization. Share the Plate for August is the North Carolina Coastal Federation that focuses on protecting and restoring our precious North Carolina coast. They have been restoring miles of coastline, training and educating students, adults, and communities to take actions that result in cleaner coastal waters and advocating for an accessible, healthy, productive coast. Please give from your own well of generosity. I now invite the greeters forward to collect our offering. Please join in blessing this offering with hymn 402, From You I Receive.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
So all summer long, I have been lifting up all the amazing work and play that is done by different teams and different individuals that make this congregation such a beautiful place to be a part of. So today, I want to lift up the pastoral care team. Helene is back there in the back with Donna Boone, who's right here. Joan Burton, I know you're here. She's also in the back. Susan Roberts over there in the back as well. And Miriam Green, I'm not sure if she's still on it. Yeah?
There's two other members that are new.
Uh-huh.
That's J.B. Joe and Robert Humbert.
Great. So Robert Humbert and Jay Bijou added to the pastoral care team. That's really wonderful. Thank you both. I'll get your names on there too. And then we have the Helping Hands group that Helene sends out an email. So if somebody needs help moving or needs a ride to the hospital or needs a ride to church or needs food brought by or any kind of need that you may have, you email Helene and she sends out an email to all these people who have agreed to be a helping hand. And somebody can just reply back to Helene and says, I've got it, I'm going to pick them up at 2 o'clock, whatever it is, right? So if you ever need something, and if you ever want to be a helping hand, you also let Helene know, and she'll add you to that email list, okay? So we want to thank everybody. Who has been a helping hand before? Yep. Well, there they are, right. So thank you all for doing that work of keeping us all together and held in love. And then the Committee on Ministry. So the Committee on Ministry is a team that helps to make sure that our shared ministries are working well together, helps us hold covenant together, helps us handle when there's conflict, because every healthy congregation has conflict and healthy ways to deal with it. So on that team, Sandy Parker over here, Penny Hooper in the back. We've just added Lee Harris over there, yay Lee, and Martha Kenworthy, who I don't believe is with us today. And Martha's going to be rolling off because she's been on it for 4 years, holding down love in this congregation. The other thing that the Committee on Ministry does, because I am a new minister and I am in the fellowshipping process, is they help me get evaluations, and they help me look at how I'm doing things and how I'm growing as a minister, and we report that back to the UUA so that they can see that I'm growing and doing what I should be doing. So those 3 people, Penny, Lee, and Sandy, if you have a problem with me, you come to me first. I'm happy to hear what you want me to know. And if you don't get good answers from me, you can always go to them. If you have a problem, if you have conflict with somebody in the community, and that, like I said, all healthy congregations have conflict somehow or another, then you can come to me, and you can also come to these 3. And we work together to make sure that we continue to hold each other in love. And how does our thing say? We begin again and again and again, right? Because sometimes we have to start over, and we're always willing to do that. And then also I wanted to lift up the mental health family support group. Susan Roberts is the person to contact for that. Once a month or weekly? Every week. They meet online. Yep. It's more for people who have a family member who has mental health issues than if you yourself have mental health issues, right? Okay. So if anybody needs that support, Susan is the one to talk to about that. Thank you for holding that team together. It's very important work. So shall we lift up our hands and our hearts in applause for all the work that is being done by all these wonderful people? Hilma off Clint made art by listening to what Spirit would share with her. Shall we rise, embody our spirit, and make spirited song together with hymn number 1024, When the Spirit Says Do. And we're going to add some new words in, like listen and paint.
Ready? Got to do when the Spirit says do. You've got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you've got to do. Oh Lord, you've got to do when the Spirit says do. Now quiet down. Spirit says do. 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 You've got to sing when the Spirit says sing. You've got to sing when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says sing, you've got to sing. Oh Lord, you've got to sing when Good job.
Please join me in reading our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now in Español. Extinguimos esta llama, pero no la luz de la verdad, el calor de comunidad, o el fuego de nuestro compromiso. Estos los llevaremos en el corazón hasta que estemos juntos otra vez.
It is UCF tradition to join hands and form something around a circle around the edges of the sanctuary. If you prefer to stay in the middle and be surrounded by our love, please do so. All right, we're going to stretch a little more over to this side of the congregation. There we got a bridge coming in with Jay. And get Landon in there. All right, beautiful. We are all connected. Go now with hearts open to the mystery that is still unfolding among us. May you have the courage to welcome truths that challenge you, the humility to learn from unexpected voices, and the wisdom to help make the world ready for what love is revealing next. Amen. Go now in peace. I got it from Addie Kirchner. Do you know her?
I haven't, but I would love to. Where's that book?
Right there. Help yourself, because it's just so amazing.
Well, what's fun is, so I have some really lovely watercolors from Japan, and my darling niece is just adoring painting. So even though, I mean, my granddaughter, she's 3 years old, and she just paints every story.
Love it.
Paints and paints
Love
and
it.
paints
Love
and
it.
paints.
Love it.
Yeah,
Yeah. So good for us.
oh, this is,
I think yeah. And this, what's so wild is this isn't that crazy now, but at the time
it's
it
not,
was.
at the time it must have been a
Yeah,
shock.
yeah.
It must have been a shock.
Well, what is this? What are you trying to do? And she's like giving the spirit the histories of the universe, right?
Yeah.
Nothing big, just the histories of the universe
Yeah, that's all. That's all.
that you won't understand.
Yeah.